Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hey. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hey. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Rakshamam. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Pahimam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahimam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahimam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahimam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Presthaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Devi Gaudavansh Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshacharane. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasa Adigor Bhakta Vrinda. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasa Adigor Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haraye Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Gopala Govinda Rama Sri Madhusudana. Haraye Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Gopala Govinda Rama Sri Madhusudana. Haraye Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Gopala Govinda Rama Sri Madhusudana. Gopala Govinda Rama Sri Madhusudana. Om apavitra pavitrova sarva avastangato piva ya smaret pundarika akshang sapakya abhyantara suchihi. Shri Vishnu, Shri Vishnu, Shri Vishnu. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnana Anjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitang Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Lang Hayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamahang Vande Sri Gurung Dinacharanang Yat Kripa Tamahang Vande Parama Ananda Madhavam Trinadapi Sunichena Tarar Iva Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama Eva Kevalam Kalo Nastyeva, Nastyeva, Nastyeva Gatir Anyata. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, this is our second class on the prayers to the personified Vedas. We will be having 36 of such scenes. We might cover more than one per class. Today, number 2 is entitled, That is the Way of Understanding Through the Parampara. Shukadev Goswami continued speaking to Parikshit Maharaj. My dear king, I will narrate in this regard a nice story. The story is important because it is in connection with Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This narration is a conversation between Narayana Rishi and the great sage Narada. Narayana Rishi still resides in Badarik Ashram in the Himalayan hills and is accepted as an incarnation of Narayan. Once, when the great devotee and ascetic Narada was traveling in different planets, he desired to personally meet the ascetic Narayana Rishi in Badarik Ashram. And he wanted to offer the Lord his respects. This great sage incarnation of Godhead, Narayana Rishi, has been undergoing great penances and austerities from the very beginning of the creation in order to teach the inhabitants of Bharatavarsha how to attain the highest perfectional stage of going back to Godhead. Narayana Rishi's austerities and penances are exemplary practices for any human being. Badarik Ashram is situated in the northernmost part of the Himalayan mountains and is always covered with snow. Religious Indians still go to visit this place during the summer season, when the snowfall is not very severe. Once, the incarnation of God, Narayana Rishi, was sitting amongst many devotees in the village known as Kalapagram. Of course, these were not ordinary sages who were sitting with Narayana Rishi, and the great sage Narada also appeared there. After offering respects to Narayana Rishi, Narada asked him exactly the same question asked by King Parikshit of Shukadeva Goswami, such as whether the Vedas ultimately describe the absolute truth as impersonal or as personal. When Narada asked this question of Narayana Rishi, the Rishi also answered by following in the footsteps of his predecessors. Narayana Rishi narrated a story of how the same question had been discussed on the planet known as Jana-loka. Jana-loka is situated above the Swarga-loka planets, or heavenly planets, such as the moon, Venus, etc. In this planet, great sages and saintly persons lived, and they were also discussing the same point regarding the understanding of Brahman and its real identity. The great sage Narayana then began speaking. My dear Narada, I will tell you a story which took place long, long ago. There was a great meeting of the denizens of the heavenly planets, and almost all of the important brahmacharis, such as the four Kumaras, Sanat, Sanandan, Sanaka, and Sanatan Kumar, also attended. Their discussion was on the subject matter of understanding the absolute truth, Brahman. You were not present at that meeting because you went to see my expansion, Aniruddha, who lives on the island of Shweta-dweep. In this meeting, all the great sages and brahmacharis very elaborately discussed the point about which you have asked me, and it was very interesting. The discussion was so delicate that even the Vedas were unable to answer the intricate questions raised. And so, Narayana Rishi thus told Naradaji the same question which Naradaji had raised that had been discussed in the meeting of Jana-loka. This is the way of understanding through parampara, or disciplic succession. Maharaj Parikshit was sent to Shukadeva Goswami. Shukadeva Goswami referred the matter to Narada, who had in the same way questioned Narayana Rishi, who had put the matter to still higher authorities in the planet of Jana-loka, where it was discussed among the great Kumar brothers, Sanat, Sanatana, Sanaka, and Sanandan. These four brahmacharis are recognized scholars in the Vedas and Shastras. Their unlimited volumes of knowledge, backed by austerities and penances, are exhibited by their sublime ideal character. They are very amiable and gentle in behavior, and for them, there is no distinction between friends, well-wishers, and enemies. Being transcendentally situated, such personalities as the four Kumaras are above all material considerations, and they are always neutral in respect to their material dualities. In the discussions held among the four brothers, one of them, namely Sanandana, was selected to speak, and the other brothers became the audience to hear him. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sorry about that. As Sutta Goswami began to answer, the 6 specific questions posed to him by the sages assembled at Naimisharanya, Sutta first of all prayed as follows: Narayanang namaskritya narang chaiva narottamam deving sarasvating vyasang tato jayam udirayet. Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayana, also unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. So my notes, my purport, is all about some insight into Narayana Rishi, specifically Narayana Rishi. So these are all excerpts from Srimad Bhagavatam, where the pastimes and character of Narayan Rishi are explained. So, in the Bhagavatam, Maitreya is informing Vidura. Daksha begot 16 very beautiful daughters with lotus-like eyes in his wife Prasuti. Of these daughters, 13 were given in marriage to Dharma, and 1 daughter was given to Agni. The names of the 13 daughters of Daksha who were given to Dharma, their names are Shraddha, Maitri, Daya, Santi, Tushti, Pushti, Kriya, Unnati, Buddhi, Medha, Tatiksha, Hri, and Murti. Murti was a reservoir of all respectable qualities, and she gave birth to Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. On the occasion of the appearance of Narayan, the entire world was full of joy. Everyone's mind became tranquil, and thus in all directions the air, rivers, and mountains became pleasant. In the heavenly planets, bands began to play and demigods showered flowers from the sky. The pacified sages chanted Vedic prayers. The denizens of heaven, known as the Gandharvas and Kinnaras, sang. The beautiful damsels of the heavenly planets danced. And in this way, at the time of appearance of Narayan, all signs of good fortune were visible. And just at that time, great demigods like Brahma also offered respectful prayers. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the transcendental personality of Godhead, who created with his external energy this cosmic manifestation, which is situated in him as the air and clouds are situated in space. He has now appeared in the form of Narayana Rishi in the house of Dharma. Let that Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is understood by truly authorized Vedic literature, and who has created peace and prosperity in order to destroy all calamities of the created world, may he be kind enough to bestow his glance upon the demigods. The Lord's merciful glance can supersede the beauty of the spotless lotus flower, which is the home of the goddess of fortune. O Vidura, the demigods thus worship with prayers the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appearing as the sage Narayan. The Lord glanced upon the demigods with mercy and then departed for Gandhamadana hill. That Narayana Rishi, who is a partial expansion of Krishna, has now appeared in the dynasties of Yadu and Kuru in the forms of Krishna and Arjuna, respectively. And they have done this to mitigate the burden of the world. Maitreya, elsewhere in the 4th canto, informs Vidura something more about Narayana Rishi. Here is this excerpt. My dear Vidura, once when Dhruva Maharaj heard the encouraging words of the great sages, Dhruva performed Achman by touching water and then took up his arrow made by Lord Narayan and fixed it upon his bow. As soon as Dhruva Maharaj joined the Narayana Astra to his bow, the illusion created by the Yakshas was immediately vanquished, just as all material pains and pleasures are vanquished when one becomes fully cognizant of the self. Even as Dhruva Maharaj fixed the weapon made by Narayana Rishi onto his bow, arrows with golden shafts and feathers, like the wings of a swan, flew out from it. They entered the enemy soldiers with a great hissing sound, just as peacocks enter a forest with tumultuous crowing. The next excerpt concerning Lord Narayan is Shukadeva Goswami explaining situations in the universe to Parikshit Maharaj. Shukadev says, from the very beginning of Brahma's day, Lord Narayana Rishi has been undergoing austere penances in this land of Bharat, while perfectly performing religious duties and exemplifying spiritual knowledge and self-control, all for the benefit of human beings in both this world and the next. Later on, in the 11th canto, we see there's a conversation between King Nimi and the Nava Yogendras, the 9 transcendental sons of Rishabhadev. And Nimi asked each of those 9 Yogendras a different question about the absolute truth. So one of those sages, his name was Drumila, he responded to one of the questions by saying, "Oh, my dear King Nimi, Narayana Rishi, who is perfectly peaceful and is the best of sages, was born as the son of Dharma and his wife Murti, the daughter of Daksha. Narayana Rishi taught devotional service of the Lord, by which material work ceases, and he himself perfectly practiced this knowledge. Narayan is living even today, his lotus feet served by the greatest of saintly persons. Once upon a time, King Indra became fearful, thinking that Narayana Rishi would become very powerful by his severe penances and seize Indra's heavenly kingdom. Thus Indradev, not knowing the transcendental glories of the incarnation of the Lord, sent Cupid and his associates to the residence of Narayana Rishi in Badarik Ashram. As the charming breezes of spring created a most sensuous atmosphere, Cupid himself attacked Narayana Rishi with arrows in the form of the irresistible glances of beautiful women. The primeval Lord, understanding the offense committed by Indra, did not become proud. Indeed, Narayan Rishi spoke laughingly as follows to Cupid and his followers, who were now trembling before him. O mighty Madan, O wind god, O wives of the demigods, do not fear. Rather, please accept these gifts I am offering to you, and kindly sanctify my ashram by your presence. When Narayan Rishi thus spoke, eradicating the fear of the demigods, they bowed their heads with shame and addressed Narayan Rishi as follows, just to invoke the Lord's compassion. Our dear Lord, you are always transcendental, beyond the reach of illusion, and therefore you are forever changeless. Your causeless compassion towards us, despite our great offense, is not at all unusual for you, since innumerable great sages who are themselves self-satisfied and free from anger and false pride bow down humbly at your lotus feet. Our Lord, us demigods place many obstacles on the path of those who worship you in order to transcend the temporary abodes of the demigods and thus reach your supreme abode. Those who offer the demigods their assigned shares in sacrificial performances encounter no such obstacles. But because you are the direct protector of your devotee, he or she is able to step over the head of whatever obstacles the demigods place before a devotee. Some men practice severe penances in order to cross beyond our influence, which is like an immeasurable ocean with endless waves of hunger, thirst, heat, cold, and other conditions brought about by the passing of time, such as the sensuous wind and the urges of the tongue and sex organs. Nevertheless, although crossing this ocean of sense gratification through severe penances, such persons foolishly drown in a cow's hoofprint when conquered by useless anger. Thus, they exhaust the benefit of their difficult austerities in vain. So while the demigods were thus praising the Supreme Lord, the all-powerful Narayana Rishi suddenly manifested before their eyes many women who were astonishingly gorgeous, decorated with fine clothes and ornaments, and all faithfully engaged in the service of Narayana Rishi. And when the followers of the demigods gazed upon the fascinating mystic beauty of the women created by Narayan Rishi, and they smelled the fragrance of those bodies, the minds of these followers became bewildered. Indeed, upon seeing the beauty and magnificence of such women, the representatives of the demigods were completely diminished in their own opulence. The Supreme Lord of Lords, Narayana Rishi, then smiled slightly and told those representatives of heaven who were bowing before Narayana Rishi, "Please choose one of these women, whoever you find suitable for you. She will become the ornament of the heavenly planets." Vibrating the sacred syllable Om, the servants of the demigods selected Urvashi, the best of the Apsaras, placing her in front of them out of respect, they returned to the heavenly planets. The servants of the demigods reached the assembly of Indra Dev, and thus, while all the residents of the three heavens listened, they explained to Indra the supreme power of Narayana Rishi. And when Indra heard of Narayana Rishi and became aware of his own offense, Indra became both frightened and astonished. So I have one more episode from the Bhagavatam about Narayana Rishi. This is found in the 12th canto. Sutta Goswami is finishing up the actual Bhagavatam, speaking to the sages of Naimisharanya, since Shukadev ends his speaking to Parikshit somewhere around chapter 6 or 7, around there. There are 13 chapters in the 12th canto, so this episode takes place after. Sutta Goswami says, O great sage Shaunaka, Markandeya Rishi worshipped the supreme master of the senses, the personality of Godhead, for countless millions of years. And in this way, Markandeya conquered unconquerable death. In this way, the devotional mystic Markandeya maintained rigid celibacy through penance, study of the Vedas, and self-discipline. With his mind thus freed of all disturbances, Markandeya turned it inward, meditating upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who lies beyond the material senses and is thus known by the word Adhokshaja. While the mystic sage Markandeya thus concentrated his mind through powerful yoga practice, the tremendous period of 6 lifetimes of Manu passed by. During the 7th reign of Manu, which is the current age, Vaivasvata, Lord Indra came to know of Markandeya's austerities, and Indra became fearful of Markandeya's growing mystic potency. Thus Indra tried to impede the great sage's penance. To ruin the sage's spiritual practice, Lord Indra sent Cupid, beautiful celestial singers, dancing girls, the season of spring, and the sandalwood-scented breeze from the Malaya hills, along with greed and intoxication personified. They all went to Markandeya's hermitage on the northern side of the Himalaya mountains, where the Pushpabhadra river passes by, the famous peak Chitra. Groves of pious trees decorated the holy ashram of Markandeya Rishi, and many saintly Brahmins lived there, enjoying the abundant, pure, sacred ponds. The ashram resounded with the buzzing of intoxicated bees and the cooing of excited cuckoos, while jubilant peacocks danced about. Indeed, many families of maddened birds crowded that hermitage. The springtime breeze, sent by Lord Indra, entered, carrying cooling drops of spray from nearby waterfalls. Fragrant from the embrace of forest flowers, that breeze entered the hermitage and began evoking the lusty spirit of Cupid. Springtime then appeared in Markandeya's ashram. Indeed, the evening sky, glowing with the light of the rising moon, became the very face of spring, and sprouts and fresh blossoms virtually covered the multitude of trees and creepers. Cupid, the master of many heavenly women, then came there holding his bow and arrows. Madana was followed by groups of Gandharvas playing musical instruments and singing. These servants of Indra found the sage Markandeya sitting in meditation, having just offered his prescribed oblations into the sacrificial fire. Markandeya's eyes closed in trance. Markandeya seemed invincible, like fire personified. The women danced before the sage, and the celestial singers sang to the charming accompaniment of drums, cymbals, and veenas. While the son of passion, namely greed personified, Spring, and all the other servants of Indra, all tried to agitate Markandeya's mind, Cupid then drew his 5-headed arrow, fixed it on his bow, and shot the arrow with 5 heads. But all these devices, meant to seduce Markandeya, proved futile, just like the useless endeavors of an atheist. When Cupid and his followers were thus trying to harm the sage, they felt themselves being burned alive by Markandeya's potency. Thus they stopped their mischief, just like children who have aroused a sleeping snake. These followers of Lord Indra had impudently attacked the saintly Markandeya Rishi, yet he did not succumb to any influence of false ego. For great souls, such tolerance is not at all surprising. The mighty King Indra was most astonished when he heard of the mystic prowess of the exalted sage Markandeya, and he saw how Cupid and his associates had become powerless in Markandeya's presence. Desiring to bestow his mercy upon saintly Markandeya, who had perfectly fixed his mind in self-realization through penance, Vedic study, and observance of regulative principles, the Supreme Personality of Godhead then appeared before the sage Markandeya in his forms of Narayana Rishi. One of them was of whitish complexion, the other blackish, and they both had 4 arms. Their eyes resembled the petals of blooming lotus flowers, and they wore garments of black deerskin and bark, along with the 3-stranded sacred thread. In their hands, which were most purifying, they carried the mendicant's water pot, straight bamboo staff, and a lotus seed prayer beads, as well as all the purifying Vedas in the symbolic forms of bundles of darba grass. Their bearing was tall, and their yellow effulgence the color of radiant lightning. Appearing as austerity personified, they were being worshipped by the foremost of demigods. These 2 sages, Narayana Rishi, were the direct personal forms of the Supreme Lord. When Markandeya Rishi saw them, he immediately stood up and then, with great respect, offered them obeisances by falling down on the ground like a stick, Dandavat. The ecstasy of seeing them completely satisfied Markandeya's body, mind, and senses, causing the hairs on his body to stand on end and his eyes to fill with tears. Overwhelmed, Markandeya found it difficult to look at Narayana Rishi. Standing with his hands folded in supplication and his head bowed down in humility, Markandeya Rishi felt such eagerness that he imagined he was embracing the 2 lords. In a voice choked with ecstasy, Markandeya Rishi repeatedly said, I offer you my humble obeisances. I offer you my humble obeisances. I offer you my humble obeisances. Markandeya Rishi gave them sitting places and washed their feet. And then Markandeya worshipped them with presentations of arghya, sandalwood pulp, fragrant oils, incense, and flower garlands. Markandeya Rishi once again bowed down at the lotus feet of those two most worshipful sages who were sitting at ease, ready to bestow all mercy upon Markandeya. Markandeya Rishi then addressed Nara-Narayana Rishi. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, these two personal forms of yours have appeared to bestow the ultimate benefit for the three worlds, and that is the cessation of material misery and the conquest of death. Tasmai namo bhagavate purushaya brahmane vishvaya vishva guruve paradaivataya narayanaya rishaye charatnoratamaya hansaya sangyata gire nigamashvaraya. I offer my humble obeisances to Nara-Narayana Rishi, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the all-pervading and all-inclusive form of the universe, as well as its spiritual master. I bow down to Lord Narayana, the supremely worshipful deity, appearing as a sage, and I also bow down to the saintly Nara, the best of human beings, who is fixed in perfect goodness. Fully in control of his speech, he is the propagator of the Vedic literatures. Satisfied by the prayers Sri Markandeya had offered, the Supreme Lord told Markandeya Rishi to now ask for a benediction. And the sage told the Lord he wanted to see the Lord's illusory energy. The Supreme Lord, Sri Hari, present before Markandeya in the form of Nara-Narayan, replied, "So be it," and then left for Badarik ashram. Namaste Narasinghaya Praklada Klada Dayane Hiranya Kashipura Bhaksha Shilatangana Kalaye Ito Narsingha Parato Narsingho Yato Yato Yamitato Narsingha Bahir Narsingho Hridaye Narsingho Narsingham Ading Sharanang Prapadye Tavakara Kamala Vare Nakam Adhuta Sringam Dalita Hiranya Kashipo Tanubringam Keshavadrita Narahadi Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Tat Sat.